Well, in the third part, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the legal framework or the legal environment in which the auditor has to work. Now, legal liability is an important measure of the cost of failing to fulfill professional responsibilities to society. Public law includes criminal law, administrative law, and the constitutional law. All public law is codified by statute passed by some level of government. Common law refers to the system of law based primarily on a previous judicial decisions. Based on the study of 129 cases, legal issues arise from 33% misinterpretation of accounting principles, 15% misinterpretation of auditing standards, 29% faulty implementation of auditing procedures, 13% client fraud, 7% fraud by the auditors. Audit responsibilities. Users of audit reports expect auditors will detect fraud, theft, and illegal acts and report them publicly. Auditors uh, take responsibility for detecting material misstatements. An expectation gap between the diligence users expect and the diligence auditors are able to accept this disparity leads to lawsuit even when auditors have performed well. Common law and statutory law. Common law is based on precedents and past decisions in the court. Common law is not enacted by legislation. Statutory law is all the laws enacted by a legislation. Prior to Enron, the major source of liability for accountant was common law. In the post-Enron world, this appears to be changing. And legal liabilities of public accountants may arise from the law of contracts or as tort actions of for negligence. Breach of contract is a claim that services were not performed in the manner agreed. The rule of law of torts is to compensate victims by harm suffered from the activities of others. Characteristics of a common law action. In common law, the burden of proof is placed on the plaintiff. Plaintiff must prove the following: they were damaged or suffered a loss. There was a beneficiary relationship with the defendant. The financial statements were materially misled or misleading, or the accountant's advice was faulty. They relied on a statement or advice. The statement or advice were the direct cause of the loss, and the accountants were negligent, grossly negligent, and deceitful or otherwise responsible for the damage. Four elements of negligence. Client may bring a lawsuit for a breach of contract. The relationship of a direct involvement between parties to a contract is known as privity. When privity exists, the plaintiff usually need only show that the defendant was negligent. Third parties may file a lawsuit under the tort law of negligence, and negligence is a failure to perform a duty with requisite standards care. Plaintiff must demonstrate there is a legal duty of a care owed the plaintiff. There must be a breach in that duty. There must be a proof that the damage resulted. There must be a reasonable proximate connection between the breach of duty and the resulting damages. The auditor's defense is to demonstrate that at least one of the preceding element is missing. To whom do auditors owe a duty of care? To the contractual party, client, to the financial stakeholders, owners. Owners cannot sue on behalf of the corporation. Stakeholders can only take action as a third parties. Due care. What is the meaning of a due care? Due care implies the careful application of all the standards of the profession. Due care is that of a reasonably prudent practitioner. Neither the highest nor the minimum standard would be considered due care. Joint and several liabilities. Joint and several liabilities means any of the several defendants that have caused part of the damage are liable to the plaintiff for the entire amount of the damage. Under joint and several liability, the court can force the defendant with the deepest pocket to pay all the damages, even though he or she may have contributed, say, only 1% to the loss. In the light of these potential legal liabilities, the limited liability partnership was created. In an LLP, the negligent partner is still liable to the extent of his or her own personal asset, while the personal assets of non-negligent partners are not threatened. Defenses of the accountant. The, de- the defendant accountant in a common law action presents evidence to counter the plaintiff's claim and evidence. The primary defense against a negligence claim is to offer evidence that the audit has been conducted in accordance with generally accepted accounting auditing standards with due professional care. A reliance letter is a document in which accountants sign that they have been notified that a particular recipient of a financial statement and auditor audit report intend to rely upon them for particular purpose. The SEC, the Security Exchange Commission laws give the SEC the legal right to decide what is GAAP, GAAP. Increasing the OSC, Ontario Securities Commission, and the Quebec regulators are seeking more enforcement power over professionals such as accountants operating in the capital market. Canadian statutory law is the Canadian Business Corporation Act and related provincial territorial corporations act. Auditors liability under statutory law. Canada Business Corporation Act, this S161 condition under which the auditor is not considered independent. S162 and 63 conditions of appointing and retiring an auditor. And S168 auditors' rights and responsibilities, attend shareholders meeting, provide written statement of reason for resignation, to make an audit examination unimpeded and gain access to data the auditors considered necessary. Section 44 and 47 identify the financial statements subject to the audit and specify that the financial statements must be in conformity with the CPA handbook. Some development concerning the liability crisis in the US Private Securities Litigation Reform Act. What is the objective of that act is discourage abusive claims of investors' losses due to the fraudulent financial statements, provides more protection against securities fraud, and increase the flow of forward-looking financial statements. How the Private Securities Litigation Reforms Act meet its objective: establish specific pleading requirements, reduce the effectiveness of a discovery in coercion settlements, mandates sanctions for frivolous claims, provides for proportionate engagement. So this is all what we want to discuss regarding the auditor's responsibility. First, we discuss the ethical and moral standards. Then we discuss the professional ethics or the professional standards. And lastly, we discuss the legal standards or legal framework in which the auditors work. So thank you very much. And I hope you enjoy this lecture. Bye-bye.